Men more quickly forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. That line from Machiavelli cuts to the heart of betrayal because it reminds you that what you give away carelessly will be remembered forever in the minds of others. An enemy does not need to break down your fortress walls if you leave the gate unbarred at midnight. Self-betrayal always arrives before external conquest. You imagine yourself safe, yet your own openness creates a path for invasion. That is how rulers, generals, and ordinary men have lost kingdoms, reputations, and opportunities, not through overwhelming attack, but through honest mistakes that armed their opponents without a single arrow fired. Picture your phone left on a table at a crowded cafe. No lock screen, messages glowing. Anyone can glance, read, and capture. It is the modern equivalent of leaving your war plans unrolled in a tent while spies slip through the shadows. The digital age has made oversharing not just careless but catastrophic. Every status update, every casual disclosure in a meeting, every nervous laugh that reveals doubt, these are cracks in the wall. In war, an opening as wide as a single stone can decide the siege. In your life, the opening might be a detail about money, a confession of fear, or an unguarded post. Machiavelli observed that fortune strikes hardest when men fail to master themselves. Self-mastery is not an abstract ideal. It is a shield. Fail to hold it, and you hand your enemy the sword. Even today, boardroom rivalries and political campaigns are won not through superior resources, but through leaks, slips, and careless transparency. Leaders are watched more than they speak, and silence often holds more weight than any explanation. Every gesture can become a weapon in another's hands. Now visualize a midnight war council. The general studies maps by torchlight, unaware that spies crouch outside the tent. One wrong word, one unguarded detail, and tomorrow's dawn brings disaster. That is you. When you speak without thought, when you post without discipline, when you trust the wrong ear. The battlefield is no longer just fields and armies. It is information, reputation, and the impressions you leave behind. So guard the throne of your mind with vigilance. Treat silence as armor, not weakness. Lock the gate of your words as tightly as you would lock your home. Do not give enemies the advantage through your own honesty without discipline. Your first act of defense is restraint, because once the gate opens, no wall will stand. Remember this line: your silence is a fortress, your carelessness a surrender. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That truth from Machiavelli frames the first mistake: disowning the throne room inside your own head. You think the crown rests firmly on your brow, but if you cannot command your inner court, your enemies already sit at your table. The mind is not a sealed chamber, it is a hall of courtiers, loyal and treacherous alike. Some whisper courage, others whisper weakness, and unless you rule decisively, they rule you. History shows that leaders were undone not only by armies but by spies in their courts. Kings who trusted the wrong advisor watched their empires collapse without a battle fought. Your spies are different. They live inside you as unguarded impulses, careless words, and sudden flashes of insecurity. When you fail to master them, they march straight to your rivals. What you call private thought becomes a public weapon. Modern psychology confirms this battlefield. Microexpressions betray emotion before a word is spoken. A slight delay in response signals hesitation. A downward glance signals defeat. Even your digital patterns, response times, tone shifts, the late-night post signal more than you think. You may believe you are silent, but silence itself signals every gesture. Every pause, every stray word forms a code, and codes can be broken by anyone watching closely. Imagine holding a council at night. You sit at the head of the long table, but among the faces lit by torchlight are saboteurs. They nod, they smile, they take notes. Tomorrow, your enemies already know your strategy because your own counsel whispered it through cracks in the walls. That is your daily reality. If you do not control your internal dialogue and outward signals, the counsel of your mind leaks into every movement of your body. Your task is to reclaim the throne. First, master your expressions. Train yourself to pause before speaking, to breathe before replying, to let your face reflect command instead of chaos. Second, separate thought from signal. Not every idea deserves expression. Rule your tongue as firmly as a general rules his soldiers. Third, silence the inner traitors. When doubt whispers, do not argue with it in public. Do not let anyone see you fight yourself. Handle the disagreement privately, then return to the world already resolved. One day, someone may press you in a meeting, challenging your plan. Weak response, rush to explain, face flushed, voice cracked. Strong response, hold still, let silence settle, then deliver a calm, direct command. Authority is not in the flood of words, but in the precision of them. Each time you resist the urge to leak, you strengthen your fortress. The first honest mistake is believing your thoughts are safe. They are not. They are revealed in signals, in slips, in silence itself. Rule your court, or it will rule you. Hold the throne of your mind, because once that seat is taken, every other battle is already lost. Remember this mantra: master the throne within, or kneel to your enemies without. The dawn is a battlefield, and the first hour decides the war of the day. If you stumble into it unarmed, you hand your enemies the advantage before you even rise from bed. The second honest mistake is surrendering the morning. When chaos rules your first steps, everything that follows bends to disorder. Command the dawn, and the rest of the day falls into formation. History is filled with men who understood this truth. Roman generals rose before their legions, their presence at inspection, a silent command that the camp was secure and discipline absolute. Emperors, statesmen, and modern leaders alike built routines, not for comfort but for control. A ritual is not about the task itself, it is about signaling sovereignty. The man who sets his terms at sunrise carries authority into every chamber he enters. Fail to do this, and you enter each battle already flanked. Your world no longer runs on trumpets and marching soldiers, but the principle is unchanged. The digital ambush strikes the moment you reach for your phone. Before you have taken a breath of your own, the agendas of others flood your eyes, messages demanding answers, headlines stirring outrage, notifications planting distraction. What feels like information is often infiltration. Each ping is a rival voice, seizing your attention and rearranging your priorities. The result is subtle but devastating. You are no longer on offense. You are reacting one move behind, your army scattered before you even step into formation. Imagine your inner troops assembled in the courtyard at dawn. They wait for their general you. If you appear late, bleary and scattered, morale falters. They march into the day without direction. If you arrive steady, armored and deliberate, their confidence hardens. The inner army mirrors the commander. Each morning, you either rally them or desert them. The command is simple: do not surrender the dawn. Rise with order, not chaos. Establish a ritual that declares sovereignty. Silence before speech, movement before messages, thought before reaction. Even a small practice, repeated with discipline, builds a wall between you and the intrusion of others. In one meeting, you may face a colleague who arrives agitated, already pulled into conflict by an early email. Instead of mirroring their chaos, you remain composed, weak. I didn't get to prepare. Strong, I prepared before the world reached me. That single contrast shifts the balance of power. The morning is not a neutral space. It is inspection, signal, and formation. Whoever rules it sets the pattern for the entire campaign of the day. Never give it away freely. Remember this mantra: win the dawn, win the field. Silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. Most men rush to fill the air with explanations, with nervous chatter, with the need to be understood. In doing so, they surrender their weapons. The first to speak often reveals position, reveals weakness, reveals intent. The one who holds silence shapes the terrain itself. Silence is not absence of power. It is the sharpening of power into a blade. History proves this. George Washington was known for his measured pauses, letting allies and rivals twist in uncertainty while he studied the field. Nelson Mandela used silence in negotiations not as a retreat, but as pressure, a weight that forced others to reveal more than they intended. In both cases, silence was commanded. To the untrained, it looked like hesitation. To those who understood, it was dominance. Your world tests you differently, but the principle remains. Social media demands instant responses. Colleagues push for quick answers. Rivals bait you into impulsive replies. Each time you react immediately, you hand over intelligence. Every tweet, every hurried message, every visible flinch is ammunition. When you slow down, when you resist, you deny the enemy their map. The pause is protection. The delay is positioning. Picture a predator crouched in tall grass. Movement gives it away. Noise alerts the prey. Stillness hides intent, builds tension, and turns the advantage. This is what you must practice. In meetings, in arguments, in negotiations, be the predator in the grass. Hold your ground, let silence work, and let the other side expose themselves. Words spoken under pressure are almost always words regretted. There will be moments of direct challenge. Someone demands a quick answer in front of others. Weak, blurting out a rushed explanation, spilling strategy, diluting your authority. Strong, holding steady, letting the silence stretch, and then delivering one decisive sentence. The difference is visible to everyone present. The first approach feels defensive, the second feels commanding. Your task is to weaponize stillness. Pause before you type. Pause before you answer. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Never mistake urgency for necessity. When you control the tempo, you control the battle. Remember this mantra: your silence is a blade. Every careless word dulls it. Mercy is not in leaving every door open. Mercy is in closing the ones that weaken you. The fourth honest mistake is keeping weak links alive out of politeness, habit, or fear of judgment. What feels like kindness often becomes exposure. A fortress is not strong because every gate is open. It is strong because unnecessary gates are sealed. Castles under siege were not breached by direct assault alone. Many fell because of forgotten tunnels, unguarded passages, or secret doors left ajar. Commanders who survived understood this truth. Protect the heart by eliminating weak points. The same principle applies to you. Your life has corridors where enemies can walk freely, old ties that serve no purpose, half-dead obligations, endless access to your attention. They drain your defenses, and every delay in closing them costs strength. In the modern battlefield, these weak doors often disguise themselves as convenience. The group chat you never mute, though it wastes hours. The email list you stay subscribed to, though it constantly floods you with distractions. The app you cannot delete, though it siphons your focus and leaks your patterns. Each open channel is a listening post where rivals or opportunists gain intelligence. What feels harmless is surveillance. What feels polite is exposure. Picture the drawbridge at nightfall. The army is safe inside the walls, the fires burn, but the chains still hang loose. A single intruder slips in and sets the hall ablaze. This is the cost of politeness when it overrides discipline. Closing the bridge is not cruelty. It is sovereignty. Lighting the wood and hearing the chains snap shut is not loss, it is liberation. You must train yourself to eliminate with precision. End conversations that only drain. Unsubscribe from streams that do not strengthen. Remove apps that pull you into reflex rather than strategy. Delete the numbers that invite chaos into your pocket. Weak. I didn't want to seem rude, strong. I chose to guard my fortress. The framing matters. One approach makes you hostage to others' feelings. The other makes you master of your space. There will be moments of resistance. A colleague may ask why you left a group chat. The calm response is not apology but clarity. My focus required it. No anger, no hostility, only command. You do not need to explain beyond that. Politeness without boundaries is not virtue. It is surrender dressed in courtesy. The lesson is ruthless elimination. Seal the unnecessary gates. Burn the weak bridges. Cut off the corridors that lead enemies directly into your mind. Each closure is not loss, but strength regained. Do not keep access alive for those who do not deserve it. Remember this mantra. Every closed door strengthens the fortress. Power without presentation is a castle without walls. The fifth honest mistake is showing the real face too soon, mistaking unfiltered exposure for strength. Authenticity is valuable, but in strategy it must be timed, framed, and armored. Every leader who endured a crisis learned to distinguish between the private self and the public mask. The mask is not a lie, it is the armor of a controlled image. History provides clear examples. Otto von Bismarck understood how to cultivate mystery and distance. His speeches were measured, his public gestures calculated, his private views tightly held. Steve Jobs projected intensity and precision on stage, even when his personal life was turbulent. Neither man was false. Each crafted a visible self that signaled power, vision, and inevitability. That is the leader's mask. Deliberate, disciplined, and unfazed. Without it, authority frays. In the modern battlefield, the mask of command is built from digital fragments. Every post, comment, and image becomes a brick in your public fortress. Each casual share erodes your legend. Each disciplined share strengthens it. You are always signaling. Social media has blurred the line between public and private, but the principle of reputation engineering remains. You decide what image to project, or others will project one for you. Picture the coronation ceremony. Before entering the Great Hall, you lift the mask. It is not deception. It is preparation. The mask carries your crest, your colors, your narrative. Inside, the crowd watches in silence. Allies feel steadied by your presence. Rivals hesitate, unsure where your edges lie. The mask controls the tempo. You are no longer at the mercy of perception. You shape it. Practical action follows this vision. First, separate what you feel from what you reveal. Command your face and tone before your words. Pause before posting. Ask whether each disclosure strengthens your fortress or opens a gate. Weak, I post to vent. Strong, I post to position. This shift from impulse to strategy turns every action into reputation capital. Second, design your public rituals. Dress, language, timing, and digital cadence signal power long before you speak. Third, guard your boundaries. Not everyone earns access to your unmasked self. The fewer who do, the stronger your position becomes. There will be pushback. A peer may say, "You are too calculated, too controlled. Handle it with calm leadership." Explain that discipline is not deception. It is respect for the weight of influence. You need not apologize for the structure. The most stable leaders project steadiness precisely because they protect their private chaos from public display. The mask of command is not about hiding your humanity. It is about presenting a version of yourself that can withstand pressure without cracking. It lets you lead without bleeding. When you finally choose to reveal vulnerability, it lands as power because it is rare, deliberate, and earned. Do not confuse raw exposure with trust. Trust grows in protected space, not public display. Authority begins with self-mastery, but influence multiplies with image mastery. Build your fortress brick by brick. Enter each hall prepared, armored, and deliberate. Remember this mantra: craft the mask or be defined by others. Excessive explanation is surrender disguised as clarity. The sixth honest mistake is believing that pouring out more words protects you when, in truth, it exposes you. Every unnecessary detail is a weapon handed to your enemy. Mystery is not weakness. It is the inner assassin that kills the urge to explain, striking silently before your own mouth betrays you. History has shown that power often lives in ambiguity. Diplomatic treaties were written with deliberate gaps, words chosen so that each side could claim victory while still leaving room for maneuver. Leaders who mastered this art kept leverage because they never gave away the full shape of their intent. The language itself became armor. Ambiguity preserved advantage, over-explanation destroyed it. When you clarify every point, you chain yourself to a single interpretation, one that rivals can twist against you. Today, the battlefield is sharper and faster. Every text message can be screenshotted, every direct message forwarded, every casual email shared beyond its original circle. Once your words leave your control, they no longer belong to you. That is why text discipline matters. Each sentence you type is a potential leak. What feels like explaining yourself is often building the case against you. A short, steady reply signals command. A long, desperate one signals fear. Weak. I just want to make sure you understand. Strong. Here is my position. The difference is survival. Picture the spy in your own camp, whispering doubts, urging you to justify, to explain, to prove. That spy is your urge to overspeak. If you indulge him, he runs to your rivals with your secrets. The assassin within must silence him. In practical terms, this means resisting the reflex to answer instantly, to justify every decision, to fill every silence. Each pause denies the spy oxygen. Each concise word cuts him down. There will be moments of confrontation. Someone may demand that you explain yourself fully, perhaps even in front of others. Calm leadership means you do not flinch. You do not launch into paragraphs. Instead, you steady your tone and give one clear sentence. Then you stop. The silence that follows is heavier than any extended justification. It forces the other person to react, not you. Your task is to master concision as a command. Draft shorter messages. Strip your language of unnecessary defense. Replace explanation with declaration. Let ambiguity carry weight when detail would chain you. Mystery is not avoidance. It is strategy. It keeps your opponents guessing, forces them to waste energy interpreting, and prevents them from pinning you to the ground with your own words. The inner assassin is disciplined. He does not shout. He does not justify. He does not waste breath. He strikes by removing excess and leaves behind only what strengthens you. Kill the urge to explain, before it leaks your position. Hold your tongue, sharpen your words, and let silence finish the work. Remember this mantra: explanation is surrender, discipline is survival. Loyalty is a currency, and the greatest error is spending it on enemies while starving allies. The seventh honest mistake is neglecting those who already stand with you while obsessing over those who oppose you. Rivals consume your attention. Critics bait your energy, but the foundation of your strength is the circle that feeds you. Neglect that circle and you will discover too late that your fortress has hollow walls. History makes this point clear. Princes who endured long reigns did so by nourishing their base of loyal supporters. Patronage systems were not just gifts or bribes, they were strategies of survival. Machiavelli warned that starving allies while appeasing rivals is fatal. A ruler who invests in the disloyal invites betrayal, while a ruler who rewards the loyal multiplies his own security. It was never generosity, it was reinforcement of the inner guard. Those who held the throne longest always fed the wolves inside the walls before worrying about those outside. You face the same principle in the modern world. Your allies are the colleagues who advocate for you in your absence, the friends who shield your name when others would drag it, the mentors who speak your value behind closed doors. Yet many people ignore these figures, chasing after critics or trying to win over doubters. That is a misallocation of force. Critics rarely convert, allies only strengthen. A simple thank you, a consistent check-in, an acknowledgement of loyalty, these are investments that harden your base. Your rivals should be aware of your strength, but your inner circle should feel it. Now visualize the table at nightfall. The hall is dark. The hunters circle outside, but under the table you slide meat to your wolves. They grow stronger, their eyes sharpen, their loyalty deepens. When the doors burst open, it is not you alone facing the attack. It is the wolves leaping to defend the hand that fed them. This is how you endure storms, not by appeasing outsiders, but by fortifying insiders. The practical command is simple. First, identify who your wolves are, the ones who have proven loyalty, not the ones who promise it. Second, invest deliberately. Time, attention, recognition, small acts that show you see and value them. Third, stop chasing critics. Weak: I just want them to like me. Strong: I will strengthen those who already fight beside me. This language shift preserves energy for where it multiplies instead of where it drains. You will face moments of tension. Perhaps in a group, someone criticizes you unfairly. The reflex might be to turn all your attention to silencing them. Instead, acknowledge your supporters who defend you. Say less to the critic, reinforce more to the ally. Over time, the critic remains loud but ineffective, while the ally becomes a shield that no attack penetrates. Your focus decides who grows. The temptation will always be to fixate on enemies because their opposition stings. But mastery means choosing strategy over impulse. Let your rivals starve outside the gates. Let your allies feast inside. Every empire that fell starved its own guard while negotiating with those sharpening swords at the border. Do not repeat that mistake. The wolves you feed become your wall. They form the pack that ensures your survival, even when storms rise and hunters gather. Strengthen them first, and your enemies will find the gates too well defended to breach. Remember this mantra: feed the loyal, and they will devour your enemies for you. Life is not checkers, it is chess. The eighth honest mistake is living and reacting move by move, never seeing beyond the immediate threat. When you play only the next step, your rival controls the board. They bait, you respond. They feint, you chase. Strategy collapses into reaction. The advantage always belongs to the one who anticipates. History reveals this truth again and again. Napoleon advanced not by improvisation but by mapping campaigns 3 stages deep, forcing his enemies into predictable traps. Sun Tzu framed war as the art of anticipation, teaching that victory comes not from responding to what the enemy does now, but from shaping what they will be forced to do later. Leaders who thought 2 or 3 moves beyond the moment survived where others perished. Those who failed to anticipate found themselves cornered, even with stronger armies. The same dynamic plays out in modern life. In workplace politics, a rival often knows your reflexes before you do. They predict how you will defend yourself, how you will respond to provocation, how you will answer a challenge. If they can map your behavior, they can manipulate it. Perhaps you think you are fighting back, but you are actually moving along the path they designed. The pattern breaker wins. If you want command, you must stop being predictable. Do not answer every email immediately. Do not reveal your irritation where it can be studied. Do not play by the script your opponent expects. Each time you alter the tempo, you rewrite the game. Imagine floating above the chessboard. From that height, you see not only your next move, but the counter, and the counter to the counter. You watch the traps forming before you step into them. That bird's eye view is foresight. It comes from slowing down, studying the map, and refusing to be drawn into impulsive exchanges. The pawn that looks threatening now may be bait. The true danger lies 3 moves away. Only distance reveals this. Practical command requires 3 disciplines. First, think in chains of consequence. Before speaking or acting, ask yourself not only what happens now, but what happens after, and what happens after that. Second, break your own patterns. If you are always predictable, even allies lose faith in your command. Third, control the pace. Slow rivals down when they rush, accelerate when they hesitate. Weak, I had to respond immediately. Strong, I chose the timing of my response. You may face direct disagreement. Someone may accuse you of being evasive because you do not react instantly. Handle it calmly. Explain that decisions are stronger when they are deliberate. Leadership is not speed, it is control. By staying composed, you prove that your silence was not weakness, but calculation. Anticipation is the hallmark of command. You cannot prevent every strike, but you can prepare for the third move, the hidden trap, the deeper play. Those who master this discipline are rarely surprised. Those who neglect it are always one step behind, living in reaction rather than authority. Remember this mantra: see 3 moves ahead, or you will always be a piece in someone else's game. Ease is the slow poison of power. The 9th honest mistake is seeking comfort when discipline is required, chasing relief when steel must be forged. Every time you avoid discomfort, you leak strength to your enemies. Every time you reach for what soothes instead of what hardens, you hand them the advantage. Pain is not your enemy. It is the anvil that shapes your will. History is clear on this point. Spartan warriors were trained under deprivation so harsh that survival itself was the test. They ate little, marched far, and endured cold without complaint. This was not cruelty for its own sake. It was engineering. By hardening boys into men who could suffer without surrender, the Spartans created soldiers no siege could break. Other armies relied on numbers or wealth, but the Spartans relied on willpower tempered in hardship. When battle came, deprivation had already done the work. The enemy could not exhaust what was already accustomed to struggle. Your world does not ask you to march barefoot across stone, but the principle has not changed. Ease is your hidden enemy. Modern comfort creates weakness when accepted without limit. The smallest denials of comfort build invisible armor. This is digital fasting, resisting the impulse to check the phone at every flicker, refusing the lure of endless scrolling, delaying gratification when the world demands speed. Each act of self-denial is a drill for the mind. Each small sacrifice is a deposit into your fortress of will. Picture the blacksmith's forge. A bar of iron is worthless until it is heated, struck, and bent into form. Each hammer blow is a painful transformation. The metal resists, but the strike makes it stronger, more defined, more useful. That is your will under discipline. Each discomfort, each moment of restraint, each act of delayed gratification is a hammer blow. The more you endure, the sharper your edge. Avoid the fire, and you remain brittle. Enter the fire, and you emerge as steel. Practical command requires ritual. Build routines that introduce discomfort by design. Wake early when others sleep. Work in silence when others drown in noise. Fast from distractions, from indulgences, from the compulsions that erode focus. Weak, I need to relax first. Strong, I will earn relief after discipline. That single shift rewires how you meet the day. Relief becomes reward, not default. Pleasure becomes earned, not assumed. You will face disagreement. A peer may laugh when you skip the distraction everyone else indulges in, saying you take life too seriously. Calm leadership is not defensive. You respond with steadiness. Discipline is the reason I move forward while others remain stuck. You do not need to convert them. You only need to continue sharpening yourself. Their comfort keeps them still. Your discomfort keeps you advancing. Pain, chosen and controlled, becomes fuel. You do not need to invent suffering, only to stop fleeing the small moments that already arrive. Cold mornings, delayed replies, silent hours, these are your forge. What feels like denial in the moment becomes power in the long run. Your enemies thrive when you seek constant ease, because ease makes you soft, predictable, and quick to fold. They wither when you harden, because nothing they withhold can break what you have already denied yourself. Discipline is the ritual that converts pain into power. The harder the strike, the sharper the edge. When you accept discomfort as the cost of mastery, you deny your enemies their simplest path of attack. They can tempt, they can press, they can exhaust, but they cannot move you. You are not brittle iron anymore. You are forged steel. Remember this mantra. Endure the fire, emerge as iron. Untouchable is not the man who fights every battle. It is the man whose fortress is so imposing that enemies abandon the attack. The 10th honest mistake is believing strength comes only from direct confrontation. True mastery is when rivals recognize resistance as futile and redirect their energy elsewhere. Untouchable is not invincible, it is strategically unapproachable. History shows how reputation itself can act as a shield. Medieval knights carried not only steel, but the weight of a name. A single crest could deter conflict because challengers understood the cost of testing it. Leaders built legacies where opposition withered before swords ever crossed. The shield was not always iron, often it was reputation alone. In the modern age, the same dynamic applies. Influencers, entrepreneurs, and statesmen who cultivate a consistent, disciplined image prevent many attacks because rivals know they will not find cracks. Your reputation is the wall your enemies must climb, and if it is tall enough, they will not try. Today, this shield is crafted through your digital presence. Each post is mortar. Each silence is stone. What you choose to reveal and what you choose to withhold both build perception. Strategic posting measured, deliberate, valuable, establishes authority. Strategic absence, silence when chaos demands reaction, signals composure. Both shape the battlefield. Enemies study you not only for what you say, but for how you move. If you are consistent, they see the fortress. If you are erratic, they see a loose gate. Weak. I post whatever I feel. Strong. I post what strengthens my legend. That shift rewires your digital footprint into armor. Visualize yourself walking through a silent hall. Once, critics lined the walls with jeers, arrows of doubt ready to launch. Now they are silent. Their banners hang, but your own discipline has outlasted their energy. Above you, banners of your own reputation and consistency fly high, lit by torchlight. You do not win by silencing every voice. You win by making opposition irrelevant. The hall itself testifies. Those who once opposed you now lower their heads in resignation. Practical command requires 3 moves. First, craft reputation deliberately. Decide what you stand for and repeat it until it hardens into stone. Second, manage digital presence as though every post were permanent. Delay gratification. Guard your tone and recognize perception as a battlefield of its own. Third, protect composure in conflict. When someone drags you into chaos, resist. Let silence or a single calm statement speak louder than 10 frantic defenses. Each refusal to descend weakens them while strengthening you. You may face direct provocation. A critic may demand an immediate response, baiting you into a fight. Command requires restraint. You acknowledge once firmly, and then you step back. The crowd sees who lost control. Untouchable is not about dominance in every exchange. It is about making the exchange itself unnecessary. Enemies thrive on weakness, inconsistency, and overexposure. They wither when they meet discipline, repetition, and silence. When your reputation is steady, when your presence is controlled, when your composure is unshakable, most rivals will not even bother. They will look elsewhere, because effort against you promises no gain. That is the essence of being untouchable, not impervious to attack, but unworthy of it. Remember this mantra: build your fortress so high that enemies turn back before the first stone is thrown. Power without mastery of self is always temporary. The final form of strength is not found in fighting every battle, but in becoming sovereign of your inner kingdom, a ruler so steady that outside forces lose influence. The climax of this journey is the recognition that the cost of neglecting the first 9 disciplines is total vulnerability, while the reward of embracing them is a fortress that no rival can penetrate. You are not only surviving, you are ascending. History offers models of this transformation. Machiavelli's Prince was not written as fantasy but as a manual for rulers who turned weakness into advantage. Leaders who commanded empires understood that self-betrayal was their greatest enemy. Some began as vulnerable, even despised, but reversed their fate through discipline. They built reputations that preempted attack, cultivated silence that commanded more than words, and projected images that could not be undermined. Modern CEOs and statesmen have done the same. Many stumbled, faced public doubt, or were dismissed as finished. Yet, those who rebuilt on the principles of restraint, foresight, and ruthless elimination rose higher than before. They proved that sovereignty is not granted, it is earned through self-command. In today's world, the archetype repeats itself. Consider the case of a public figure who seemed broken by scandal. Every critic predicted collapse, yet instead of reacting wildly or explaining endlessly, they withdrew, disciplined their presence, rebuilt their circle, and re-emerged with sharper focus. Over time, their enemies had nothing left to feed on. Silence starved the fire. Reputation was reforged through action, not apology. Where others were reactive, they became untouchable. This is modern sovereignty, converting the sting of betrayal into the steel of authority, proving that mastery of self translates directly into mastery of perception. Now imagine the coronation scene. You stand in a war-torn hall. The banners of your critics hang tattered, their energy spent, their voices reduced to whispers. Around you, torches burn against stone walls rebuilt by your own discipline. You walk toward the throne not as a pretender, but as the rightful sovereign, carrying the crown in your own hands. There is no council to vote on, no rival to challenge. You place the crown upon your own head. The silence that follows is not emptiness, but acknowledgement. This is the sound of enemies giving up. This is the weight of sovereignty earned through the mastery of silence, ritual, and will. But the vision is not abstract. To reach this hall, you must embody every discipline that brought you here. Rule your inner court, or your impulses will betray you. Command the dawn, or your day collapses before it begins. Wield silence as a blade, or your enemies will map your weaknesses. Eliminate weak doors, or they will breach your fortress. Wear the mask of command, or you will be defined by others. Kill the urge to explain, or you will be caged by your own words. Feed your allies, or you will face betrayal when you need loyalty most. Anticipate the third move, or you will always be reacting. Convert pain into power, or you will remain brittle iron. Each principle is a stone, and together they build the fortress of your sovereignty. Practical command now demands a final oath. Stop chasing approval. Stop surrendering to chaos. Stop feeding critics while starving allies. Instead, set rituals that reinforce willpower daily. Speak less, but command more. Invest in your circle, deny your enemies attention, and project an image of composure so steady that attacks dissolve before they reach you. Weak, I hope they respect me. Strong, I will live in a way that leaves them no choice. That single shift marks the coronation of your sovereignty. The sovereign of the inner kingdom is not manipulated, not reactive, not desperate for validation. The sovereign sets the tempo, guards the gates, and commands presence without needing noise. Enemies look, calculate, and turn away because the fortress is too high, the reputation too steady, the discipline too deep. That is the ultimate transformation. Not to be free of enemies, but to be beyond their reach. Remember this mantra: crown yourself, and the world will kneel to the discipline it sees. Authority begins within. The world bends to the man who first bends himself to discipline. The 10th principle is not a new tactic, but the oath that binds them all. Command the self, and you command the world. Every weakness you ignore becomes a weapon for your rivals. Every ritual you master becomes a shield for your throne. History reinforces this lesson. Machiavelli observed that rulers collapse when they trust fortune more than discipline. Those who built fortresses within through silence, restraint, and ritual outlasted storms that destroyed greater armies. The Spartans trained by deprivation, generals ordered dawn inspections. Statesmen wore masks that preserved their power. These are not stories of the past. They are reminders that the enemy often never needs to strike. Men disarm themselves when they abandon discipline. Now the battlefield has changed, but the weapons of self-mastery remain. Your phone is the gate of your fortress. Your morning is the battlefield where order is set. Your reputation is the banner that flies above the walls. Each careless post, each wasted dawn, each mask abandoned too early is an open breach, and every act of restraint, every disciplined ritual, every deliberate image is another stone stacked in your fortress. The call to action is clear. Choose one ritual today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Digital silence. Refuse the ambush of constant noise for the first hour after waking. Morning strategy. Set your terms before the world dictates them. Mask of command. Decide what you will project before stepping into public view. You do not need all three at once, but you must begin. Weak. I will start when I feel ready. Strong. I begin now, even in discomfort. This difference separates the sovereign from the servant. Imagine yourself marching out of the gates tomorrow morning. The fortress behind you stands tall because you chose one ritual and kept it. A banner of reputation flutters above, untouchable to rumor. Critics still exist, but their voices no longer reach you. You stride past them in silence, your pace steady, your eyes fixed forward. They see not a man begging for approval, but a sovereign walking with composure. You cannot control fortune. You cannot silence every enemy, but you can rule yourself so completely that their weapons strike air. Command the self, and the world responds in kind. Your fortress is not built in grand declarations, but in daily rituals that harden into law. Begin today, for discipline delayed is sovereignty surrendered. Remember this mantra: master yourself and the world obeys.